answer me. I text you all the time. Please call me when you can. But you never can.
Kris is at it again. She's back to ghosting Jeymi. Only this time, she's not just her long-distance girlfriend, she's her wife.
It's the first time I look at you in 1 month.
Nothing's ever enough, so why would I want to talk to you?
You tell me bitch all the time.
Because that's what you're doing, bitching!
Things have obviously taken a turn for the worse between these two, and everything that Jeymi was worried about seems to have come true. But can anyone say they're surprised? Now, before we watch Kris and Jeymi scream at each other, let's go back to the start of this episode.
I am back in Alabama because I needed to take care of some bank issues and also need to pick up my narcolepsy medication. So Jeymi and I agreed that I should return.
Whoa, hold on a minute. Take a look at Kris. Is it just me, or does she look so much better here than she did when she was in Colombia? She looks much healthier, doesn't she? Sure, maybe it's the makeup, or maybe she really did get the medication she needed or wanted. But while Kris seems to be glowing, Jeymi has got COVID again.
Jeymi had such complications having COVID the first time. It put her in the hospital and she almost died. So, of course, I'm absolutely concerned.
Now, the last time, Jeymi was so ill that Kris had to send her money to pay her bills. But keep in mind that we were also told it may have all just been a scam. Jeymi may have been lying in order to get money from Kris. At least that's what Kris was told by the other woman that Jeymi was talking to. Was that other woman just jealous? Or was there really some truth to those allegations?
This other woman told me that Jeymi had been working the entire time. She told me she was at home sick with COVID.
So was Jeymi faking last time? And if she was, could she possibly be faking it again this time? Why would she do such a thing, you may ask? Well, Kris drops a huge bombshell that might give her reason.
I was only supposed to be in Alabama for 2 weeks, and here it's been 3 months. At first, I had to extend my trip because I had some medical issues that I had to get taken care of.
Vague medical issues? Okay, I'm not gonna say it, but we're all thinking it, aren't we? Are those bandanas on her inner arms a fashion choice, do you think? The thing is, Jeymi's biggest fear came true. Kris didn't come back like she said she would. And maybe a well-timed COVID diagnosis is her way of trying to get some attention. Her way of trying to get Kris to come back. After all, when Kris was ill, when Kris needed Jeymi's help, Jeymi was there for her. Surely her wife would do the same for her in her time of need, wouldn't she?
I realized that we were running out of money faster than even I thought, so I ended up staying longer so I could work and make money.
Is anyone else finding Kris's behaviour very erratic? Like, it was only last week that they were thinking of starting a business. They were shopping for food trucks, costing anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000. So, at what point did she realise she was running low on funds? Why was she not just honest with Jeymi? Why did they go through the motions looking at the food trucks if she knew, and she must have known, that it was all just an unaffordable fantasy? But what makes her actions even more erratic and much harder to explain is if Kris was having money problems, why did she encourage Jeymi to quit her job?
I know quick for my job, maybe you need help. It's okay, I come back to work.
We're gonna be fine covering bills. We can just use the money that I have.
It really feels like Kris arrived in Colombia with a bit of a saviour complex. She must have been convinced that her dollars would go further than they actually did. And you've got to assume that Kris tried to show off. She tried to present this illusion that she'd be able to spoil Jeymi. But now the reality is sinking in, and now Kris is trying to change the narrative to make Jeymi look bad.
At the time, I told her that if she wanted to quit, she could, but that she would need to go out and search for another job. But that never happened.
So what I'm hearing here is that Kris has known for a while that she couldn't sustain the both of them. But she let Jeymi believe that they could start her dream food truck business, and then Kris just ran away. She 1000% knew that when she left Colombia, she'd be staying in the US for longer than 2 weeks. Why? Because she couldn't afford not to work. But rather than be honest about her situation, she instead looked her wife in the eyes and just lied to her face.
Every penny I make goes to you.
I don't care, Mommy. I need support for my wife. You called me 3 times.
That's a lie.
Out of the two of them, at least from what we've seen with our own eyes, I think we all know who has the worst track record of lying. Kris either outright lies or withholds the truth until it benefits her. Which leads me to suspect that when Jeymi says Kris has only called her 3 times in 3 months, that's probably accurate.
Look at yourself, Kris. There's no lie. I called you and never answered me. I text you all the time. Please call me when you can. But you never can.
My heart is kind of breaking for Jeymi. She's ill and all alone. This isn't the type of relationship she wanted when she married Kris. And at this point, she may as well just be single.
My problem is you married me. But right now, I don't feel like I have a wife. At this point, I'm not sure you love me.
What's becoming very apparent is that these two don't communicate well at all. Jeymi is telling Kris that the money isn't important. All she wants is emotional support. But Jeymi may as well be speaking a foreign language, because for Kris, it's going in one ear and out the other. In fact, money seems to be the only thing Kris is concerned about.
When I don't answer the phone, do you know what I'm doing? I'm working to send you money. Me and Jeymi talked all the time. That changed from talking to fighting.
What I find really difficult to accept is that Kris went to Colombia, flaunted her money, told Jeymi that she'd look after her, and now she's turning it around and making Jeymi seem like this ungrateful, money-hungry lady that's forcing Kris to do back-breaking work to provide for them. That's just so far from the case. But speaking of back-breaking work, what exactly is Kris doing for money?
I am doing any and every odd job I can get my hands on. Yard work, painting houses, pressure washing driveways.
That sounds like hard manual work, Kris. I'm not really sure how you're managing that with your back and your neck pain. Considering how a bumpy flight had her in such a bad way when she first arrived in Colombia, someone please explain to me how Kris is now doing these kinds of jobs that are surely very tough on her back and her neck. Which just goes to raise the point. What planet was Kris living on? There she was thinking that she could support them both, when it now becomes clear her situation is so dire she's had to resort to odd jobs and yard work, having previously been a manager at a large shipping company. It feels like she's desperate for money.
It's the first time I look at you in 1 month.
Nothing's ever enough, so why would I want to talk to you?
You tell me bitch all the time.
Because that's what you're doing, bitching.
We're really starting to see a different side to Kris here. There's Jeymi feeling insecure, which is understandable given that Kris has ghosted her in the past. And now we learn Kris hasn't been bothered to video call her wife in over a month. Jeymi's not exactly asking for anything unreasonable, is she? All she wants is some contact between the two of them. But Kris makes it seem like Jeymi's asking for too much. She's trying to make out like Jeymi's being needy. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Let's just remind ourselves how Kris justified her actions the last time she ghosted Jeymi.
I became overwhelmed with her neediness and I ghosted her.
This time, however, Kris also has another excuse to try and justify her actions.
I gave up everything to be there with you.
But you don't hear me. This is my point.
Everything I do is never enough for you. I'm done with this conversation.
Come on, Kris, give me a break. What a huge exaggeration. I'd hardly say you gave up everything. In fact, it doesn't really seem like you've given up much at all. You were in Colombia for a grand total of a month. It's funny because Kris is making out like her decision to be in America, to come back and work, is this huge sacrifice that Jeymi should be eternally grateful for. But when she says, everything I do is never enough for you, That isn't exactly true. Jeymi was satisfied with Kris when she was there in person. Their problems have only really escalated now that she's run away.
Cuando Kris se fue de Colombia, me dijo que iba a comprar un ticket de regreso lo más pronto que fuera posible. Cuando eso no sucedió, comencé a dudar de ella.
Kris ignores or shuts down Jeymi anytime she brings up the idea that she should return to Colombia. It's all giving the impression she has no real intention of returning. It's almost as if making money is the perfect excuse for her to continue staying in the States for as long as she wants. Why were they in such a rush to get married? It felt at the time like Kris was so excited to be in love with a woman. But the sad reality is, right now, she doesn't appear to be ready to be in a relationship with anyone, male or female.
I've lived for my children, but now it's time for me to have my own life.
Kris has spent her whole life hiding herself, living for other people. Now, however, she's in a headspace where she wants to put herself first. She wants to be selfish. But Kris, you can't do that when you're in a relationship. Perhaps Kris thought that being with a woman would be different. Maybe she felt that she'd be more free. But now she's beginning to realise it still means she has responsibilities and commitments. And those are things she doesn't appear to want.
Entiendo que necesitamos dinero para pagar las cuentas, pero creo que ella debería hablar conmigo y poder buscar una solución juntos. Me hace sentir que realmente ella no quiere regresar.
Kris is at a point where she's going to have to choose between her wife and her money. And let's be honest, it doesn't appear to be a whole lot of money. This is a decision that shouldn't need much thought, yet Kris is stumped.
But if I stay here to make more money, our relationship is going to suffer because Jeymi's just going to get madder and madder.
I still don't think that Kris has been entirely honest. I don't think we're getting the full story for why she's been in America for so long, especially regarding her health issues. If I were Jeymi, I'd start looking for a new apartment and a new job urgently, because it's starting to feel like Kris could abandon her with that expensive apartment they rented any day now.